My mother-in-law wouldn't stop pushing that awful herbal brew on me. Drink it. If you can't stomach it, hand it over. I'll finish it myself. I spent good money on this for my grandson. Begged the herbalist for hours. I simmered it for 3 full hours just for you. I took one sip and my stomach turned. I vomited right there in the kitchen sink. Abigail's face twisted in disgust. What a waste. Marrying you was a curse on this family, Harper. And you reek. For the baby's sake, I've put up with you. It took 3 years of marriage for you to get pregnant. Now you better give me a grandson, or I'll lose face in front of everyone. I stood there, wiping my mouth, my hand instinctively going to my swollen belly. At 32, I thought pregnancy would bring joy, but it had only amplified the tension in our small Denver apartment. The doctor at my last prenatal checkup had been clear. Harper, you can't eat or drink anything random. Your indicators are off, blood pressure's high, and there's a risk of complications like preeclampsia. Stick to the plan or delivery could be tough. But Abigail dismissed it all. Those doctors are scammers. What does it matter if your numbers are off? You're just lazy, that's what. She gestured at the living room, cluttered with her knitting supplies and Jack's work boots. Look at this mess. You can't even tidy up. Think pregnancy makes you some queen? Pray it's a boy this time, or you're in for it. Her words stung, but I bit my tongue. Jack would be home soon from his shift at the auto shop, and I didn't want another fight. Abigail was in her late 60s, with sharp gray eyes, wiry hair pulled into a bun, and a perpetual scowl that deepened the lines on her weathered face. She'd moved in temporarily after Jack's dad passed, but that was 2 years ago. That night, as I lay in bed, the cramps started, sharp and unrelenting. "Jack," I whispered, shaking him awake. He groaned, his broad shoulders shifting under the covers. At 34, he was still handsome in a rugged way, with dark hair tousled from sleep and stubble on his jaw. Something's wrong. We rushed to the ER, Abigail trailing behind, muttering about how I was overreacting. The doctor, a kind-faced woman in scrubs, examined me quickly. This time we caught it early, but next time might not be so lucky. Did you ingest something unusual? I glanced at Abigail, who huffed. Must be that spicy takeout or soda she sneaks. Not my herbal tonic. I paid top dollar for that. I told her a dozen times, folk remedies weren't safe. But she insisted. Back in my day, we didn't have fancy doctors. We boiled roots and raised kids just fine. The doctor shook her head. Mrs. Lewis, no more unapproved remedies. And given the baby's size, head's large, we're looking at a possible C-section. Natural birth could be risky. Abigail exploded. No way. My grandson needs a natural birth for strength. C-sections make weak kids. Jack stayed silent, his arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. I felt alone in that sterile room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The arguments escalated as my due date approached. Abigail hovered like a shadow, her short, stout frame always in the kitchen brewing more tonics. How can you not have the conditions for natural birth? She snapped at the obstetrician during my next appointment. The doctor, patient but firm, explained again. The pelvis is narrow, and with your history of high blood pressure, it's safer to plan a C-section. Abigail waved her off. Quack doctor, we'll skip the next checkups. I know a midwife who uses old methods. Better than this. Jack nodded along, his blue eyes distant. Mom's got experience, Harper. She raised me without all this fuss. I protested. We have to listen to the professionals. What if something goes wrong? But they brushed me aside. That evening, as I sat on our worn couch, rubbing my belly, memories flooded back. I'd met Jack at a community college in Denver 3 years ago. He was charming, with that easy smile and calloused hands from fixing cars. My parents had opposed the marriage, Mom especially. Harper, he's from a modest family, and that mother of his, she's controlling. Think about your future. But I was in love, stubborn at 29. We eloped, and I cut ties with my family, thinking love would conquer all. Now, staring at the peeling wallpaper in our two-bedroom rental, I wondered if Mom had been right. The apartment cost $1,900 a month, and with Jack's $6,000 salary and my part-time job as a graphic designer, on hold for pregnancy, we scraped by. Abigail contributed nothing but complaints. One afternoon, I overheard Abigail on the phone. "Yeah, the master's right. The baby needs to be born at 8:08 a.m. for good luck. Smooth sailing for the family." She hung up, turning to me with a smirk. See? Real wisdom, not doctor nonsense. Jack came home late that night, smelling of beer. "Business trip was rough," he said, collapsing into his recliner. I made his favorite, grilled cheese with tomato soup, but he barely touched it. "Harper, you're getting temperamental lately. Mom says you've been snippy." I sighed, my long brown hair falling over my shoulders as I leaned against the counter. At 5'6", I'd always been curvy, but pregnancy had added 30 pounds, making me feel ungainly. "I'm just worried about the baby, Jack. The doctor's serious." He waved it off. "Mom knows best. Hey, what do you think of Riley? Mom says she's sweet, works at the coffee shop downtown." Riley was a new name, a family friend Abigail kept mentioning. Young, blonde, with a bubbly personality that made me feel plain in comparison. The pressure in our cramped Denver apartment built like a storm cloud, heavy and unavoidable. Abigail's so-called remedies, those murky herbal brews she insisted on making, left me constantly nauseous, my stomach churning even at the smell. She'd hover over me every morning, her stout frame blocking the kitchen light as she stirred the pot. "Drink this, Harper. It's good for the baby. Builds strength for a boy." I'd force down a sip, but the bitter taste would send me rushing to the bathroom. Jack, meanwhile, grew more distant with each passing day. He'd come home late from the auto shop, his clothes smelling of grease and something sweeter, like perfume, and he'd barely look at me before collapsing on the couch. One evening, as I was doing laundry, I found a crumpled receipt in the pocket of his jeans, $200 spent at an upscale steakhouse downtown, the kind of place we never went to because it was too fancy for our budget. My heart sank. When he got home, I held it up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jack, what's this? A $200 dinner? You said you were working late." He glanced at it dismissively, rubbing his stubbled jaw with one hand while kicking off his boots. "Oh, that? Just a work thing. Client meeting, boss insisted. Don't make a big deal out of it, Harper." I'm beat. But it didn't add up. We were scraping by on his $6,000 salary and my paused freelance graphic design gigs, and fancy dinners weren't part of any work thing he'd mentioned before. Suspicion started to fester, especially with Abigail's constant jabs. Then came the shopping blow-up. I'd been craving bird's nest soup. Something I'd read online was nutritious for pregnancy, though a small jar cost $50, more than we usually spent on treats. I splurged on it anyway, thinking it might help with the fatigue. Abigail spotted it in the fridge and exploded, her gray eyes flashing as she slammed the door shut. "What the hell is this, Harper? Bird's nest? Who do you think you are? Some pampered princess spending Jack's hard-earned money? You're not bringing in a single dime right now, lounging around all day." I flinched, my hand protectively on my belly. "It wasn't that much, Abigail, and it was a gift from an old college classmate I ran into at the store. They insisted." She snorted, crossing her arms over her chest. "A classmate? In this neighborhood? Don't lie to me, girl. Probably some shady acquaintance handing out freebies. You're turning into a spendthrift, just like Jack warned." Jack walked in right then, the front door creaking as he dropped his toolbox with a thud. He caught the tail end of the argument, his broad shoulders tensing. "Mom, ease up. Harper's pregnant. She needs to eat well." But Abigail ignored me completely, turning her attention to him with a warm smile. She bustled over, plating his dinner, steak and potatoes, his favorite, while leaving mine to cool on the counter. "Here, son, eat up. You've had a long day." As we sat at the table, she leaned in close to him, whispering just loud enough for me to hear, "Jack, honey, what do you think of Riley? That sweet girl from the coffee shop? Mom can tell she's got her eye on you. She's got that real spark, you know? Full of life, unlike some people around here who just complain." My fork froze midway to my mouth. Riley again. I'd heard the name whispered before, always with Abigail's approving tone. That night, in our bedroom with its faded blue walls and the queen bed we'd bought secondhand, I confronted Jack as we lay in the dark. "Jack, what's really going on with Riley? Your mom keeps bringing her up, and you're out late more often. Be honest with me." He rolled over, his back to me, sighing heavily. "Nothing, Harper. Absolutely nothing. Mom's just talking nonsense, stirring the pot like always. Go to sleep. We've got an early doctor's appointment tomorrow." But the suspicion gnawed at me like a persistent ache, deeper than the pregnancy cramps. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering our wedding day. It had been simple. Just a small ceremony at the local park with a reception costing $5,000 total, mostly from my savings I'd built up before we met. Abigail had complained the entire time. "Too extravagant for what we have, Harper. We could have done it cheaper." I'd ignored it then, blinded by love. Now, it all felt like red flags I'd missed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, an unknown number. The text read, "Harper, it's Mom. I saw Jack downtown today with another woman, laughing over lunch. Please come home. We can fix this. Your dad and I miss you." Tears stung my eyes as I deleted it, my thumb hovering for a moment. I'd cut ties with my family after they opposed the marriage, calling Jack from the wrong side of town, and Abigail overbearing. But now, pregnant and isolated in this tense home, I felt truly trapped, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. The betrayal crept in slowly, but when it hit, it shattered everything. It started one rainy evening in late October. Jack stumbled through the door around midnight, his arms slung over Riley's shoulder for support. She was the family friend Abigail kept raving about, mid-20s, with a slender build, striking bright blue eyes, and long blonde hair that cascaded effortlessly down her back. Her warm, dimpled smile seemed too perfect, like she'd stepped out of a magazine. "Whoa, easy there," she giggled, her voice light and flirtatious as she guided him to the couch. "He's had a bit too much at the bar. Work celebration gone wild. Don't worry, Harper. I just wanted to make sure he got home safe." Abigail, who had been dozing in her armchair with a knitting project in her lap, perked up instantly. Her gray eyes lit up as she bustled over, fussing like a mother hen. "Oh, Riley, you're a lifesaver. Come in, dear. It's pouring out there. Stay the night. It's too late to drive back to your place. We have the guest room all set up." Jack mumbled something incoherent. His stubbled face flushed from alcohol and collapsed onto the cushions without even glancing at me. I stood in the kitchen doorway, my swollen belly aching from standing too long, feeling like an intruder in my own home. The next morning, the smell of oatmeal wafted through the apartment. I shuffled in, my nightgown rumpled and my long brown hair a mess, only to find Riley already at the table, wearing one of my old robes, like she belonged there. Abigail was serving her a steaming bowl. "Here, try this porridge I whipped up, Riley. Oats with cinnamon and fresh apples. Your favorite, right?" She completely ignored me, not even offering a spoon. Riley beamed, pushing a wrapped gift toward me across the table. "Morning, Harper. I brought this for you. Thought it might cheer you up during these last weeks of pregnancy." I unwrapped it to reveal a cheap handbag, the kind you'd find at a flea market with a poorly stitched LV logo. Abigail snatched it from my hands, her wiry fingers tracing the fake leather. "Oh my goodness, Riley, this is genuine LV. So luxurious and expensive, must have cost a fortune." I couldn't hold back. "It's a knockoff, Abigail. Look at the stitching. It's obvious." My voice came out sharper than intended, exhaustion and frustration bubbling over. They both turned on me like I'd insulted royalty. Abigail's scowl deepened, her bun bobbing as she shook her head. "Ungrateful as always, Harper. Riley goes out of her way to be kind, and you throw it back in her face. No wonder Jack's stressed. Riley feigned hurt, her blue eyes widening. I just wanted to do something nice. I didn't mean to offend. The tensions finally erupted at the hospital a week later. During labor, the pains were unbearable, and the monitors beeped warnings about my blood pressure spiking. The doctor insisted on a C-section. It's the safest option now. Natural birth could endanger both of you. Abigail refused to back down, her stout frame planted firmly by my bed. Absolutely not. Natural or nothing. My grandson needs to come into this world the right way, strong and healthy, not sliced out like some shortcut. I signed the consent forms with shaking hands, tears streaming down my face. Abigail screamed, her voice echoing in the sterile room. If you go through with this and something happens, if you die, at least the baby will be natural born. That's what matters for the family line. Our son, Caleb, arrived healthy but tiny, with a tuft of dark hair like Jack's and my hazel eyes. He needed time in the NICU, incubator costs racking up thousands a day. Abigail blamed me entirely, hovering over the glass like a guard. All this expense because you couldn't handle a real birth. Wasted money we don't have. Riley visited daily, cooing over Jack as he stood by her side. Your promotion at the shop? That was thanks to my dad's connections. He owns a parts supplier. Anything for you, Jack. Her hand lingered on his arm too long. I finally confronted her in the hallway, my hospital gown loose and my body aching from surgery. Stay away from my husband, Riley. This is my family. Abigail jumped in, defending her like a shield. How dare you? Riley's parents are big shots, own half the auto suppliers in town. And you? Just some orphan trash with no background. Know your place. The words cut deep, reminding me of the family I'd left behind. But in that moment, something inside me hardened. I wasn't trash. I was Harper Lewis, and it was time to reclaim my life. The cracks in my facade finally shattered after Caleb's birth. For years, I'd hidden my true background from Jack and Abigail, pretending to be an orphan with no family ties. In reality, I was Harper Lewis, daughter of Isaac and Evelyn Lewis, owners of a successful chain of hardware stores across Colorado. We'd grown up comfortably in a spacious suburban home in Boulder, but when I fell for Jack, my parents had warned me about his modest background and controlling mother. Stubborn and in love, I'd eloped and cut contact, insisting I could build my own life. Now, holding my tiny son in the hospital room, with his soft tufts of dark hair and Jack's hazel eyes staring up at me, I realized I couldn't do this alone anymore. The constant belittling, the dangerous remedies, the whispers about Riley, it was all too much. My hands trembled as I dialed Mom's number, one I hadn't used in 3 years. Mom, it's Harper, I whispered, my voice breaking. There was a long pause, then her warm, familiar tone flooded the line. Harper? Oh, honey, is that really you? We've been so worried. Where are you? What's wrong? Tears streamed down my face as I poured out everything, the toxic marriage, Abigail's interference, the risky pregnancy, and now, this precious baby boy. I'm ready to come home, Mom, if you'll have me. Of course, sweetheart. We'll get you out of there. Your father and I have been waiting for this call. Within hours, they arrived at the hospital. Mom with her elegant silver bob and Dad, tall and sturdy with his salt and pepper beard, looking every bit the successful businessman in his casual button-down. Abigail's eyes widened when she saw them. Who are these people? She demanded, her stout frame blocking the doorway like a sentinel. I took a deep breath. This is my mother, Evelyn, and my father, Isaac Lewis. Yes, the Isaac Lewis of Lewis Hardware Supplies. Abigail's face paled, her gray eyes darting between us. What? You said you were an orphan, no family at all. Jack, slouched in the corner, straightened up, his rugged features twisting in confusion. Harper, is this true? Why didn't you tell me? I hid it because I didn't want to be judged or used, I replied, cradling Caleb closer. But now it's over. I want a divorce, Jack. He stepped forward, his calloused hands reaching out pleadingly. Harper, please, for Caleb's sake. We can work this out. Mom didn't mean any harm. She's just old school. Abigail chimed in, her voice shrill. Yeah, think of the baby. He needs his father, his grandma. You can't just walk away after everything we've done for you. But as they protested, I glanced at Jack's phone on the table. It buzzed with a text from Riley. The test is positive. Our baby. Can't wait to tell you. My heart sank, but it hardened my resolve. No, I said firmly. And let's not forget what you owe me. I covered the down payment on the apartment with my own savings. The wedding? Mostly my money. $4,000. Those gifts and bills you racked up? The car repairs for your truck, Jack? $2,500. And all the groceries and utilities while Abigail lived rent-free? Easily another $20,000 over the years. I listed it out methodically, watching their faces drain of color. We'll settle this in court if needed. Jack begged again. Harper, don't do this. I love you, for Caleb. But the betrayal stung too deep. Riley was pregnant, and he'd been stringing me along. With my parents' support, I walked out that day, Caleb in my arms, leaving behind the life I'd foolishly built on lies and endurance. The truth had set me free, but the real battle was just beginning. Revenge unfolded slowly, like a carefully laid plan coming to life. After that final hospital confrontation, where Abigail had screamed about my ruining her grandson's future, I knew I couldn't stay another day in that suffocating apartment. I packed a single suitcase while Jack was at work and Abigail napped, slipping out with Caleb bundled in my arms. My hands trembled as I drove to my parents' house in the upscale suburbs, a cozy 3-bedroom ranch with a manicured lawn and a wraparound porch where I'd played as a kid. Mom, with her warm hazel eyes and silver-streaked hair, enveloped me in a hug at the door. Harper, we've been waiting for this. You're home now. Dad, Isaac, a sturdy man in his 60s with a kind face framed by glasses, wasted no time. As a successful hardware store owner, he connected me with our family lawyer, a sharp woman named Elena with bobbed hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. The apartment? You paid the down payment and most bills. It's in your name from before marriage. We can sell it quickly. Within a week, we listed it for $280,000, the Denver market snapping it up in days. I netted $150,000 after fees, transferring it to a new account Jack couldn't touch. Jack called nonstop, his voice frantic over the phone. Harper, what the hell? Mom says the locks are changed. You can't just kick us out. I kept my tone calm, steady. It's my property, Jack. Remember how you and Abigail treated me? Like I was nothing? Well, now you're seeing the consequences. Find somewhere else to live. Abigail jumped on the line, her shrill voice cracking. You ungrateful woman. After all I did, those tonics, the sacrifices. You'll regret this when Caleb grows up without a father. They lost everything. The apartment, their savings drained by Jack's business expenses, which I now knew funded dates with Riley. Riley's pregnancy turned disastrous. She'd foolishly followed Abigail's folk remedies, boiling those same herbs that had nearly harmed me. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, she ended up in the ER with severe cramps, the doctor warning, these untested mixtures caused complications, high risk of miscarriage if you continue. Riley confronted Abigail in tears. You said this would guarantee a boy. Now look, I'm bleeding, and the baby's in danger. Abigail dismissed her. Nonsense, doctors lie. Drink more, it'll toughen you up. The climax hit like a storm I never saw coming, but one I'd unknowingly set in motion. Weeks after the divorce papers were filed, I got a frantic call from the hospital. Riley had miscarried, twins no less. The doctors blamed it on those same toxic folk remedies Abigail had forced on her, just as she'd done to me. Riley, pale and broken in her hospital bed, Her blonde hair matted with sweat and her blue eyes swollen from crying, pointed a trembling finger at Abigail. "It was your tonics. You said they'd guarantee healthy boys. But look what they've done. I trusted you. And now they're gone." Her voice cracked, echoing in the sterile room filled with beeping machines and the faint smell of antiseptic. Abigail stood there, her stout frame shrinking under the accusation, her gray eyes darting wildly. No, it can't be. Those herbs worked for generations. You must have done something wrong. Maybe you didn't boil them long enough." But the evidence was damning. Lab tests showed dangerous levels of unregulated compounds in Riley's system, the kind that could cause severe complications. Jack paced the hallway outside, his rugged face etched with guilt and fear, stubble unkempt, and his work shirt rumpled from sleepless nights. He'd racked up debts trying to impress Riley, credit cards maxed out on dinners, gifts, and that ill-fated attempt at a fresh start. Now, creditors were circling, and with no assets left after I sold our shared property, jail loomed for fraud and unpaid loans. Elena assured me, "We've got evidence, texts, receipts, witness statements. They'll crumble." Abigail cornered me in the waiting room later that day, her bun disheveled and her voice a desperate whisper. "Harper, please, withdraw the suit. Jack's facing real time behind bars. He's your son's father, for God's sake. Have some mercy." She clutched my arm, her weathered hands rough against my skin, tears streaming down her lined cheeks. "We were family once. I know I was hard on you, but it was for the baby's good. Don't destroy us like this." I pulled away, my heart pounding, but my resolve steel hard. At 32, I'd endured enough. The constant belittling, the manipulation, the betrayal. "You made your bed, Abigail. Lie in it. You poisoned my pregnancy with those brews, turned Jack against me. And now Riley's paid the price too. No more chances." As I walked out, leaving her sobbing in the fluorescent-lit corridor, a weight lifted. Justice wasn't just served, it was overdue. Jack's trial was set for next month, and for the first time, I felt truly free, ready to rebuild with Caleb in a home filled with love, not toxicity. The courtroom echoed with the judge's gavel as the verdict came down. Jack sentenced to 12 years for fraud, embezzlement from his job, and the mounting debts he'd hidden from me. Abigail, frail and defeated, got probation but lost everything. Her small pension garnished, forced into a rundown assisted living facility on the city's outskirts. Back at my family's home, a cozy 3-bedroom ranch in the Denver suburbs, I finally breathed freely. Mom, with her warm hazel eyes and silver-streaked hair, enveloped me in a hug the day I arrived. "We've missed you, Harper. Let's rebuild." Dad, Isaac, sturdy at 65 with his calloused hands from years running the hardware stores, played peekaboo with Caleb, eliciting giggles that filled the house with light. No more scraping by on found $800 rent. Here, the mortgage was paid, and I had a home office for my graphic design work, bringing in steady freelance gigs at $50 an hour. Caleb thrived, his chubby cheeks and bright eyes, a mix of mine and, ironically, not fully Jack's, as the fertility tests I'd secretly run confirmed his asthenospermia. I'd whispered that truth to Jack in his last jail visit, watching his face crumple. "Riley's miscarriages? You were never the father you claimed." He lunged at the glass partition, screaming curses, but the guards pulled him away. It was petty, perhaps, but after years of their gaslighting, it felt like closure. Riley faded into obscurity, her connections exposed as fabrications, her family middle class at best. No big shots. She texted once, "Harper, I'm sorry. Can we talk?" I blocked her, focusing on my new life. Weekends meant park outings with Caleb, pushing his stroller under Colorado's blue skies, or coffee with old friends who'd welcomed me back without judgment. One evening, as the sun set golden over the Rockies, Mom sat with me on the porch swing. "You're stronger now, Harper. That ordeal shaped you." I nodded, sipping tea. It did. No more tolerating toxicity. Caleb toddled over, his tiny hand in mine. Justice wasn't just their downfall. It was my rebirth. Free at last, with a future bright and unburdened.